Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Bikes with Drew. We're coming along real fast here. Today we're going to be putting the hydraulic brakes onto Project Hardtail. So I've already gone ahead and put the brackets on the front and the rear, but I'm still going to give you a closer look at how those go on and some things to look out for. So this is the rear of the bicycle here, guys. These two mounting points like this, where they go in this way, that's what's called an IS, or an international standard. Despite the name, it's not necessarily the most common thing, but it's basically one of the two main ones. And the bracket that we've put on here, where the mounts are now on top, that's what's called a post mount. So the space between these two screws here will be the same as what's on the front of, or on the back of your fork on the front of your bicycle. Essentially, it's just an adapter, and this one has gone from a 160, which is what comes standard on the frame, and brings it up to a 203. So that's why moving it this far up and all that will be able to accommodate this big disc here. And then this being the front of the bicycle, this is the fork. These two mounts here are what are called post mounts. And then this adapter, the fact that it brings the caliper on your brakes this far out, is what's going to make that space again for the bigger rotor. So now that we've already got the brackets on there, we can go ahead and put on the new brakes. I'm going to start by doing the front brake, which, as you saw in the unboxing at the beginning of the video, comes all pre-assembled, which is really nice. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is remove this orange tab right here. And what this is just what helps keep the pads separated in shipping. Because if you push this handle or this lever down, you're going to actually get those pads to get closer and closer and closer together. And then you've got to pry them apart, which you really don't want to do. So by pulling that orange plastic out, we can now go ahead and mount this onto the posts. All right, so we've gone ahead and put the lever up on the handlebars here temporarily, just so that the caliper and the hose can hang free. Inside your pack, you'll probably have two new screws, assuming that you bought new brakes. As I mentioned previously, I like to use new screws anywhere that I can, but there's nothing wrong with reusing your old ones. And so what we're going to do is mount the caliper onto the rotor real quick. And then after that, we're going to have to go along and make sure it's centered and place the hose properly. So you're going to want to get your first screw into the post, and then your second screw into the post, and then go ahead and tighten them up. Don't get them too tight, but tight enough that they're pretty much on there. All right, so as you can see, I've got this tightened down, but I don't have it on there very tight. And the reason for that is that there's a quick trick you can do to recenter your caliper on top of your rotor. Basically, once you've got everything set up the way you want, because the screws are loose, if you pull down on the lever, that'll center the caliper. You then tighten it all the way down, and once you release your lever, your pads will pull away evenly from the disc. Our caliper's on and the brakes are not rubbing on either side of the rotor. The wheel spins freely. We're going to go ahead and clean up the cable and then make sure that we place the lever where we want it, because right now it's just on there temporarily. Most forks are going to have a little plastic tab at the front. Give you guys a quick idea of what that looks like. That plastic tab right there. And that's what's going to help keep your cable out of the way of your tire. So we can go ahead and loosen that. It's usually a different size Allen key from everything else. You don't need to take the bolt all the way out, just enough to get the hose inside there, like that. And then you can go ahead and tighten it back down, and that's going to help keep that hose in place. And there we go. So now that the hose is here, we can go ahead and grab one of our grips that we'll be putting on afterwards. And we can slide this on. What that's going to do is give us an approximation of where we want that lever to be. And that way we're not, having it all over the place. We can have it where it's actually going to go. So I haven't tightened the grip on there. I just have it on there temporarily. I'm going to loosen my lever, and I like it aiming down a little bit. So I'm going to say approximately there for now. That's where we're going to leave it anyways. Yeah, that feels pretty good. So that's going to be where my brake sits on my handlebars for now. Once I've got the other one there, I can go ahead and clean up the hoses a little bit and sort of get them out of the way. These ones were cut from the factory a little bit long, but it's not that big of a deal since it will be a bit of an aggressive, maybe even do some dirt jumping with it. I do want that little bit of extra clearance from my handlebars. So I'm happy with the length of that hose like that. So essentially at this point, my front brakes are installed, my rear brakes are installed, but I still have all this cable hanging here. As I was mentioning before, you can use C-clips or you can use zip ties. I'm going to throw a little bit of extra steez on the bike and use these red zip ties that I got. It kind of keeps with the color scheme. I've got some red accents on the handlebars and the fork. But basically what I'm going to be doing is using the existing guides that are on the frame itself to pull all that cable into the front, and then I can finish off and tie it nicely up there. Now that my cables are routed all the way along the frame, I've just got the front here that I'm going to clean up a little bit with a couple extra zip ties. It's not a necessary step, but I find that it'll just make things look good and keep things out of the way. There you go. So now, hydraulic brakes are on. I'm coming through with, I really just have the drivetrain left to do, and then maybe put some different tires on it. But super excited. I can't wait to use these things. I can tell already, they get hydraulic brakes. They almost get. Sorry about that, guys. The battery and the gimbal died there and kind of. But I took the opportunity, went and changed my shirt too. What I was saying was that it's almost as if hydraulic brakes, they get better every time you go out, and it's very clear. They perform better. They're much more reliable. It's just an all-around great upgrade for your bike. So these new hydraulic brakes paired with the big rotors, I'm that much more confident in the braking system on my bike, and that confidence out there, sometimes it's that little X factor when you're thinking about doing a jump or thinking about doing a drop that's going to allow you, yeah, you know what, I got this. My bike's going to perform and keep me through it. So, thanks so much for tuning in again. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate it, but there's no pressure, I promise. And yeah, guys, go ride your bike.